The Blade Don't Sleep, Part 2, The Rise of Lil CP by Desmon Brunson, Chapter 1, Born in the City by the Sea. Before he ever had gold in his mouth or a name that carried weight on Long Beach Boulevard, Lil CP was just a kid named Desmon Price. Born in '74 at St. Mary's Hospital, he came into the world to the sound of lowriders growling past and his mama praying the rent check didn't bounce. His pops had already moved back in with his sister in the suburbs, working his 9 to 5 for the past 21 years at the same job, a local grocery store. They lived in the Atlantic Avenue projects, where the paint peeled, windows cracked, and the walls told stories in spray paint. Nights smelled like fried food, ocean air, and gun smoke. His mama, Ruby, worked a 9 to 5 at a convalescent home and nights at a diner on 6th Street. That left Desmond to the corners, the noise, and the older kids who taught him early what the streets really were, a test that never ended. But there was still love in the mix. His Aunt Rachel, the one who'd later lose her fight with cancer, used to take him and his cousin down to Santa Monica Beach every Sunday, pointing out toward the pier. His pops would even join. "Don't ever forget, baby," she'd say. "The water don't change. Just keeps moving." He held on to that. By the time he was 8, Desmond could tell the difference between a .38 and a bottle rocket, could spot an undercover by his shoes, and could count faster than any teacher could test him. Life didn't hand out lessons in those apartments. It demanded them. And every few months, Big CP, his mama's older brother, would pull up in that loud orange Lincoln, bass thumping, diamonds on his fingers, and multiple women in the passenger seats who looked like they stepped out of a music video. That's when it started. The curiosity, the hunger, the idea that maybe he could be more than another kid trapped behind the chain link and broken glass. Chapter 2. From the projects to the boulevard, by the time Lil CP hit the 4th grade, life had already split in two. His parents' fights stopped echoing through the walls one autumn night. That was the day his pops packed a bag, mumbled something about needing space, and never came back to the apartment. His mom, tired but proud, took what little she had and moved them into the Atlantic Avenue projects, where the walls sweated in the summer heat and gunshots replaced lullabies. His pops didn't disappear completely, though. He went to stay with his sister, Aunt Rachel, over in Lakewood, a woman with a soft voice and a sharp tongue who made Desmond feel like the world still had some good left in it. She'd feed him home-cooked meals on weekends, keep him off the corners, and remind him that school might be the only thing that could pull him out the mud. Then, the summer after his freshman year hit like a bad dream. Aunt Rachel got sick. Cancer, they said. Within days, the smell of bleach and medicine filled her little house, and one quiet afternoon she was gone. Her death broke something in him. He saw his pops cry for the first time, saw bills stack higher than hope, and felt the world go cold around him. That's when Desmond, soon to be Lil CP, started thinking different. He didn't care about homework or curfews no more. He was focused on one thing: money. His pops was barely holding on to the mortgage, and his mama on Atlantic was drowning in overdue notices. Somebody had to step up. He met Lundy Mack that same year. They sat next to each other in history class. Two kids from the same city but different worlds. Lundy was heavyset, dark-skinned with long dreads that framed a quiet face. He didn't talk much, never bragged, never fought, just watched and listened. Desmond was the opposite. Slick-talking, white-skinned with tattoos blooming early on his arms, and a smile lined in gold grills he bought after his first real lick. They clicked in a way nobody expected. Lundy didn't have confidence, and Lil CP had too much. They balanced each other out, like the calm and the storm. And while they were finding their lane, Big CP, Lil CP's uncle, kept sliding in and out of their lives like a ghost in orange linen. Every time he pulled up in that bright orange Lincoln, the whole block stopped to stare. He'd flash his diamonds, talk game, and disappear again, leaving behind a taste of the life Desmond couldn't shake from his head. By the time graduation rolled around, Lil CP was done pretending. He was tired of watching his mama scrape change for rent, tired of seeing Lundy hustle side jobs just to stay afloat. The Blade on Long Beach Boulevard was calling. Bright lights, fast money, and women who'd trade loyalty for leadership. Lundy didn't want to risk it. He wasn't built for the streets like that. But Lil CP had a heart full of drive and a pocket full of dreams. And he hated seeing his best friend struggle, knowing he can be out there making a rack a day. Chapter 3. First night on the Blade. The night air on Long Beach Boulevard was thick with perfume and exhaust. Streetlights buzzed like tired bees over slow traffic, the glow sliding across chrome rims and tinted windows. Radios thumped bass lines from DJ Quick and Too Hort, soundtracking every conversation that started with a lie and ended in a $sign. Lil CP leaned on the hood of his cream-colored '79 Cadillac Coupe de Ville, gold trim glinting under the lamps. The car looked fresh out of a dream. Clean paint, wire wheels spinning lazy, the smell of fresh armor all floating around it. It wasn't just a ride, it was an announcement he had actually got from his pops. He ran his tongue across his gold grills, tasting the metal that had cost him 2 weeks of hustling on the low. Tonight was different. He wasn't just watching anymore. He was in it, finally part of the current that never stopped moving. Across the street, Big CP's orange Lincoln sat idling, the man himself half hidden in the dark. Big CP gave a slow nod, a signal that said, "Handle your business." The rest was up to Desmon now. A pretty slim, dark-skinned girl in a nice blue outfit on walked up first. She'd seen him around, heard stories about the white-skinned kid with the slick mouth who moved like he'd been here forever. They called her Midnight. "Which one is your feet?" she asked, testing him. "Rolling with myself right now," Lil CP said, eyes steady. "But you can roll with me if you're trying to eat." It was a line he'd practiced 100 times, and tonight it finally hit. She smiled, half doubt, half curiosity, and within an hour she was back with money in her hand. Just like that, Lil CP's first dollar from the Blade was made. By midnight, he was pacing the block like he owned it. He learned fast how to spot undercovers, how to keep the girls safe enough to stay loyal, how to smile when other pimps stared too long. The game didn't feel cold anymore. It felt alive. Each exchange, each nod, each folded bill, it all fed the hunger that had been eating at him since the projects on Atlantic Ave. When he finally parked the Cadillac back on the curb, he sat there for a long time, hands on the steering wheel, staring at the streetlights flicker. The sound of heels clicking on pavement, laughter cutting through car alarms. It all blended into one rhythm. He went to a payphone, dialed Lundy Mack. "Bro," he said, voice low but charged. "I told you it's real out here. I touched my first rack tonight." Lundy chuckled on the other end, half proud, half nervous. "You wild, Des. You really on that?" "Man, this the start," Lil CP said. "We ain't gonna struggle no more." He hung up, leaned back, and let the engine idle, the blades stretched out ahead of him like a promise he couldn't unmake. Chapter 4. Big CP's Lesson. The next evening, Lil CP rolled up to a car wash off Artesia and Orange Avenue, the kind of place that doubled as a neutral zone for hustlers, dealers, and then pimps after dark. The hum of pressure hoses mixed with the low thump of car speakers, the smell of wet concrete hanging in the air. That's where Big CP waited, leaned against his orange Lincoln, diamonds flashing under the flickering floodlights. He was dressed clean as always. Orange silk shirt, matching slacks, gaiters polished like glass. His chinky eyes studied everything without moving much, like he already knew how the night would go. "Lil man," Big CP said as Desmon pulled up. "You finally touched some paper, huh?" Lil CP grinned, showing off the gold in his mouth. "Yeah, I made something slight last night. Ain't nothing crazy, but it's real money." Big CP laughed low, a sound that rumbled deep in his chest. Real money always feel fake the first time you touch it. Then it start owning you. He motioned for Desmon to follow and walked toward the back of the wash, where the noise dropped away. Let me put you on game, nephew. The blade looks sweet, but it's got teeth. You running girls, cool, but you gotta learn control. You ain't just getting money, you managing emotions. You start letting your heart move before your mind. That's how the game eats you alive. Lil CP nodded, listening hard. Big CP lit a cigarette, the orange tip glowing in the dark. Rule 1, never fall for a story. These girls gon' cry, they gon' swear they loyal. But loyalty out here is rented by the hour. Rule 2, never get too loud. Flashing draws heat. Keep your wins quiet, your circle tighter. He took another drag. And rule 3, never trust nobody who smiles too much. Half the city wearing masks. Desmond took it all in, the words sinking deep. Big CP looked at him a long moment. You got something, though. That mouth, that look, people believe you. You could run uptown one day if you keep your head right. A slow smirk crossed Lil CP's face. That's the plan, Unc. Ain't trying to be broke no more. Big CP dropped his cigarette, crushed it with his heel. Then remember this. The game don't love you back. You can only ride it till it crash. He walked off, the orange Lincoln purring as it pulled away, leaving exhaust and quiet behind. Lil CP stood there a while, staring down the street toward the avenue lights. The city seemed endless, full of promises, full of traps. He didn't know it yet, but every lesson Big CP gave him came with a shadow. And someday that shadow would circle back. Chapter 5, Paper and Pressure. By the summer of '93, the name Lil CP started carrying weight up and down Long Beach Boulevard. You could hear it in passing. Whispers from car windows, from girls under streetlights, from older cats who watched the game long enough to know when a new player was rising. He wasn't a king yet, but the city had started watching him like one. Most nights, after handling business on the blade, Lil CP would slide down Artesia Boulevard to the old hot dog stand near the corner liquor store. The smell of hot, fulfilling chili and smoke filled the air, cutting through the night breeze. That stand had been there forever, a safe spot where gangbangers, working girls, and tired locals all crossed paths without drama. That's where Lundy Mack always waited, posted up on the hood of someone's car, hoodie up, dread tips catching the light. He didn't talk much, just ate his food and listened. It was their ritual, two friends from the same city, living different lives, but always meeting halfway. "You're really out here doing it, huh?" Lundy said one night, wiping mustard from his hand. "Your name ringing out Dez. Folks is talking." Lil CP grinned, leaning back against the Cadillac. "That's what's supposed to happen. You move right, the street's gonna speak for you. It's like music. You don't gotta scream to make noise." Big CP's words stayed in his head, guiding him, but also haunting him. Keep your wins quiet. Keep your circle tight. He followed that advice, mostly. Still, success had a way of drawing light, and the light always drew shadows. He started carrying more cash, wearing flashier clothes, hitting different parts of Uptown with confidence. Every girl he turned out brought him more money, more respect, more risk. He knew cops were watching. He knew other pimps were jealous. But the game felt too good to stop. One night, a black Impala rolled past slow, windows down, music low. Lil CP's eyes caught the shine of chrome. He tensed for half a second, then relaxed. It was just one of Big CP's little homie, nodding at him as they passed. "Un's keeping tabs on me," he muttered. Lundy smirked. "He probably proud of you, Loki." "Nah," Lil CP said, taking a bite of his hot dog. "Ain't no pride in this game, bro. Just power." The two sat in silence for a while, watching the boulevard glow and flicker. Around them, the city moved like it always did, hungry, restless, alive. What neither of them knew was that the hot dog stand would outlive both their ambitions. Years later, folks would still sit there and talk about the night Lil CP came up, about the Cadillac with gold trim, about how his game changed the whole tempo of Uptown. But for now, he was just a young man with a mouthful of gold, a pocket full of dreams, and a streetlight future burning in front of him. Chapter 6, When the Money Talks. By the winter of '93, Lil CP wasn't just a name in Uptown. He was the conversation. Every block, every barber shop, every corner knew the stories, the girls, the cars, the quiet way he moved through the city with confidence that didn't need a crowd. The 710 South was his artery. From Linwood down to downtown Long Beach, his reach stretched like streetlight shadows. The old heads saw it happening and shook their heads. Too fast, too clean, too quiet. That's when the trouble started. Big CP had been watching. From the outside, it looked like pride, an uncle admiring his nephew's rise. But behind that pride was tension. The game only had room for one king in the family. Boy moving like he forgot who taught him. Big CP muttered one night to one of his pimp partner. He eatin' too fast. Meanwhile, Lil CP was making plays on his own. New cars, new girls. Even a small operation running out of a mechanic shop on Cherry Avenue, a spot fronted as a tire place but moving more product than rubber. Money started talking louder than loyalty. At the hot dog stand on Artesia, Lundy Mack could feel the shift. He'd always been Lil CP's shadow. Loyal, solid, but now the city treated him like background noise. "Man, you changin', Lil CP," Lundy said one night, leaning against the familiar counter, smoke from the grill rising between them. Lil CP didn't even flinch. "Nah, I'm just finally being seen." "You seen all right, seen by cops, seen by haters, seen by folks who used to cheer for you and now want to wear your skin." Lil CP smirked, but his eyes flickered. He knew Lundy wasn't wrong. A black Tahoe had been circling lately. A couple of unmarked Crown Vics parked too long near the block. Even the girls were nervous. One of them swore a detective followed her to the motel from the Blade. But CP couldn't slow down. Not now. The taste of power was too rich. He started holding meetings at luxury penthouses, low-light, tinted windows, always armed. Even Big CP tried to reach him one night, told him to fall back before the city bites. "Unc, I learned from you," Lil CP said coldly, "but I ain't playing in your era no more. My time different." That was the last real conversation they had before things went bad. Weeks later, the mechanic shop got raided. One of the girls got caught holding more than she should have. Word spread fast that someone in the circle had flipped. Lundy called him that night, voice shaking. "They watching you, bro. I can feel it." Lil CP looked out his window, city lights reflecting off his gold grills. "They been watching," he said softly, "but they ain't seen nothing yet." Outside, the streets of Uptown buzzed like they always did, but under that buzz there was static. Something building. Something that couldn't stay quiet much longer. Chapter 7. The calm before the setup. Even when the money came fast and the streets whispered his name, Lil CP never forgot about the projects. Every few days he'd pull up to the projects in that cream Cadillac Coupe de Ville with the gold trimmings, bass bumping loud, and kids chasing behind like it was a parade. He'd hop out with a bag of groceries in one hand and a wad of bills in the other. Always the same greeting for his mama. "Mom, I told you I ain't letting you starve long as I'm breathing." His mama would just shake her head, half proud, half scared. She knew what her son was into, even if he never said it out loud. The golds in his mouth, the girls calling his phone at all hours, the way his name carried weight around the boulevard, it all said enough. But when he was in that apartment, Lil CP wasn't a player or a boss. He was just Desmon again. That's when he'd always find his little brother, Malik, sitting on the couch glued to the TV. Malik was 12 years younger. A skinny kid with the same sharp jawline, same light skin, same grin that could talk its way out of anything. "What's up, lil twin?" CP would say, messing up his brother's hair. Malik would smile big. "You gonna take me riding in the caddy today?" "Only if you help me clean up first," CP said, grabbing a broom. That was their routine, CP sweeping the kitchen while Malik followed him around with a towel, pretending to help. His mama watching from the doorway, quiet tears hiding behind a smile. When he left, he always dropped a few hundreds on the table. "For you and his little badass," he'd tell her. She never wanted to take it, but she always did. Rent didn't wait for morals. Before he'd head back out, CP would crouch next to Malik. You stay in school, you hear? Don't be like me. Be smarter. Malik would nod, but he didn't really understand. To him, his big brother was the blueprint. The car, the gold, the confidence, that was everything he dreamed of. Later that night, back on the blade, CP leaned on his Cadillac, watching the traffic slide by. The lights from Long Beach Boulevard reflected off the gold trim like little fires. The girls were out, the air smelled like perfume and street food, and for a moment, everything felt right. But deep down, he knew this kind of peace don't last long. Every dollar came with a shadow. Every smile on the boulevard had a lie behind it. Still, when he thought about Malik's smile, pure, unbothered, untouched by the city, it gave him a reason to keep pushing, not just for money anymore, but for something cleaner, something lasting. Chapter 8, Whispers on the Boulevard. By late summer, Long Beach Boulevard was hot, not just from the sun, but from eyes everywhere. The game had shifted. New faces started showing up on corners, slick talkers from Compton and Linwood claiming corners that wasn't theirs. And right in the middle of it, Lil CP's name was ringing too loud. He'd made his mark quick. Too quick. Word on the street was he had the baddest girls, the cleanest ride, and the smoothest mouth in the city. But on the blade, attention was a double-edged sword. One side gold, the other side gunmetal. That night, CP leaned against his cream Cadillac, counting cash, while Lundy Mack posted up beside the hot dog stand off Artesia Boulevard. Same spot they always chilled at since high school. The smell of onions and grilled beef mixed with the hum of traffic and laughter. Man, I'm telling you, CP, Lundy said, voice low. You're moving too fast out here. Everybody talking about you, and not all of it good. Lil CP smirked, gold teeth flashing under the streetlight. Let him talk. Ain't nobody touching me. I ain't talking about touching, I'm talking eyes, Lundy said, looking down the boulevard. You know how it go. When a man getting money, somebody out there feel like he shouldn't. CP took a bite of his hot dog, nodded slow. You sound like my mama now. Lundy chuckled. Maybe she right. Maybe you should chill a minute, get low, stack quiet. CP laughed. You ever see me do anything quiet? That got them both laughing, real from the gut. The kind of laugh only two brothers share after years of struggle. After a pause, Lundy said, You remember when we was broke and walking up and down Artesia? No money, no car, no girls, just us? Yeah, CP said, smiling faintly. I remember. Whole city felt smaller back then. Yeah, Lundy said, watching cars roll past. Now it feel like it's watching you. CP stayed quiet for a moment, eyes scanning the strip, the motel signs flickering, the low hum of engines, the same corners that made him who he was. Don't worry, bro, he finally said. Ain't nobody taking me off this blade. This my city. Lundy didn't argue, he just nodded, because that's what real friends do. They don't fight your confidence, even when they fear what's coming. Before they split, CP tossed his hot dog wrapper in the trash, patted Lundy on the back. Appreciate you, fat boy. You always keep it 100. Lundy smiled. Somebody got to keep you from losing your damn mind. As CP drove off, the Cadillac headlights lit the street like gold fire. But as the taillights faded, Lundy stayed standing by the hot dog stand, hands in his pockets, staring down the boulevard, like he already knew the city was about to turn on them both. Chapter 9, Eyes in the Rearview. The nights were longer now. The blade never really slept, but lately it felt like it had grown teeth. Lil CP was still shining, gold in his mouth, cream Cadillac gleaming under the streetlights, but he'd started to feel it, that slow crawl of eyes on him every time he stopped at a light. It started small, a car creeping too close behind, a face he didn't recognize, parked across from the motel, the same brown Cutlass he'd seen twice in one night. Every time he checked his mirror, it was there. Probably just jealous, he told himself, tapping his fingers on the steering wheel to the beat of Nate Dogg on the radio. But deep down, he knew the game was never that simple. That next afternoon, CP swung through the Atlantic Ave projects to drop off groceries and a couple hundred for his mom. His little brother came running out the front door barefoot, smiling wide, looking just like him. White skin, same eyes, same grin. "Desmon, you bring me something?" CP laughed, kneeling to hug him. "You already know, lil nigga." He handed him a 20 and a pack of baseball cards. "You the richest kid on the block now." Inside, his mom was at the stove, the smell of fried chicken filling the kitchen. She smiled but shook her head. "Boy, you staying out of trouble?" He grinned. "I'm staying paid, Mama." "Money can't buy you happiness," she said quietly, stirring the pan. "I can feel something in the air. You need to be careful who you let close." He didn't argue, just hugged her and helped sweep the kitchen floor before leaving. That was his peace, those short visits home, cleaning up, talking with her, watching his little brother chase the neighborhood kids outside. By dusk, he was back on the boulevard, posted near the motel on Long Beach, checking his girls, keeping things running smooth. That's when Lundy Mack pulled up, his dad's old blue Caprice rolling slow. "Bro," Lundy said, leaning out the window, "you seen that orange Lincoln again?" CP looked at him. "Big CP's ride?" "Yeah, been passing through here all week. Ain't stopped once, just watching." Lil CP frowned, jaw tight. "That's family. He just checking the blade." "Maybe," Lundy said, eyes serious. "But family or not, he watching too hard." The wind carried sirens from down the boulevard, faint but constant. CP leaned against his car, eyes on the reflection in his window. The orange Lincoln easing by at the corner, windows tinted too dark to see inside. He said nothing, just watched the lights fade, the same way his gut told him peace was fading too. Chapter 10. When the game talks back. The orange Lincoln rolled up slow, humming that soft bass only old-school rides carried, clean, confident, and dangerous without saying a word. Lil CP stood near the motel, counting what the girls brought in, when the car stopped in front of him. The window slid down just enough for a puff of smoke to drift out. "Hop in, nephew." It was Big CP, smooth as ever. Diamond rings flashed in the streetlight, and his eyes, narrow and unreadable, studied everything without moving. Lil CP slid into the passenger seat, the smell of cologne and cigar thick inside. "You moving right," Big CP said, tapping the wheel. "Word is you got the blade paying attention. Money flowing, hoes respecting you, but too much shine brings shadows." Lil CP smirked. "Ain't worried, I keep my eyes open." Big CP chuckled. "Everybody think they eyes open, till the dark come for 'em." He glanced at his nephew's gold teeth catching the dashboard light. "You got taste, though. Remind me of me back when I thought this game was forever." They cruised down Long Beach Boulevard, the strip alive with flashing motel signs and slow cruisers. Every stoplight felt like a confession booth. "Unk," Lil CP said. "Folks been riding through here, I don't know. Keep seeing the same faces. Might be police, might be haters, hard to tell." Big CP nodded slowly. "If it is police, you keep paperwork clean. No stash in the whip, no dope on the girls. Make sure they know the rules. If it's haters..." He smiled without warmth. "You make sure you're the last one breathing when it's over." Lil CP turned to him, studying that calm face. "You sound like you know something I don't." Big CP laughed. "Boy, I always know something you don't." They stopped at a red light on Artesia, right by the hot dog stand where CP and Lundy used to hang out. A couple kids were posted up eating chili dogs, not a care in the world. For a second, Lil CP remembered being that free. Before bills, before the blade, before death started knocking on doors around him. Big CP followed his stare. "Don't lose that hunger, nephew. It's the only thing that keep you alive out here. But don't let it blind you either." The light turned green. Big CP eased forward, voice dropping. "Next time somebody roll up on you with questions, don't answer right away. Listen first. Folks always tell 'em they self if you let the silence sit long enough." Lil CP nodded, half listening, half uneasy. The advice was solid, but the tone was wrong, like Big CP wasn't warning him, but testing him. When they finally pulled back up near the motel, Lil CP got out and leaned on the door. "Appreciate the game, Unc. I'm good, though. I got it handled." Big CP smiled that same unreadable smile. "Hope so. The blade don't sleep, remember that." He pulled off, orange paint glowing under the streetlights until it disappeared into the dark. Lil CP stood there for a long minute, the night quiet except for cars sliding by and a siren in the distance. He couldn't shake the chill that came with his uncle's words, the feeling that maybe the game wasn't talking to him anymore. Maybe it was talking back. Chapter 11. Vegas ain't sleeping either. The road to Vegas was long and open, the kind of stretch that made the world feel wider than it really was. Lil CP's cream Cadillac Coupe de Ville glided smooth across the desert asphalt, the gold trimmings catching the sun like jewelry. In the back seat, two of his hoes laughed, counting a roll of 20s and sipping on soda. Lundy Mack sat in the passenger seat, quiet but calm, his eyes half on the horizon, half on the rearview mirror. "Man, this ride clean," Lundy said, smirking. "You got it smelling like a dealership and sin at the same time." Lil CP laughed. "That's that pimp balance, half business, half blessings." They crossed into Nevada just before sundown, the sky painted orange and purple. The Cadillac slid down the strip, chrome shining under neon, the girls giggling at every flashing light. "Y'all know the rules," Lil CP said, voice firm but smooth. "No funny business. Stay sharp. Stay pretty. Vegas carpet don't care where you're from. It'll eat you alive if you act new." The girls nodded, already knowing. By the time they got settled in the MGM Grand, Lil CP was already in casino mode. Fur coat, gold grills, and that grin that made strangers trust him too quick. Lundy tagged along as they hit the Orleans, standing by the bar, while CP hit the blackjack table like it owed him money. 21, baby," CP said, flipping another hand and watching the dealer sigh. "You see that, Lundy? Game respect game, cards or corners, don't matter." Lundy chuckled. "Nigga, you got the touch. I'm just trying to stay out the way." "Out the way?" CP leaned back in his chair. "You got too much heart to be hiding from the paper. You could run your own lane easy." Lundy shook his head, sipping his drink. "I ain't built for that, bro. I'd rather be behind the wheel than pulling the strings." "Don't sell yourself short," CP said, grinning. "Maybe one day you'll be standing where I'm at." Lundy laughed, but his voice carried a strange tone, half joke, half omen. "Maybe when you die, I'll carry your legacy." Lil CP looked up, smile fading just for a second. The noise of the casino blurred. Slot machines, laughter, music. But that line hung between them heavy. Then CP smiled again, shaking his head. "Ain't nobody taking my place, Lundy. Not now, not ever. But if it was to happen, I would want it to be you." They spent the rest of the night chasing cards and luck, rolling back to the hotel near sunrise with a trunk full of cash and tired smiles. As the city lights faded behind them, Lil CP drove quiet for once, eyes straight ahead. He didn't say it out loud, but Lundy could tell. Somewhere deep down, CP knew he was racing something he couldn't outrun. Chapter 12. Back to the Blood. The desert dust was still on the Lincoln when Lil CP pulled back into Long Beach. The drive home had been quiet. Too quiet. Lundy Mack was staring out the window, the girls asleep in the back seat, and CP had that gut feeling he always got when something was off. They turned off the 710, slid down Alondra, and the closer they got to the Boulevard, the heavier it felt. The city didn't sound the same. No laughs, no familiar faces waving at stoplights, just eyes watching. When he parked by the liquor store near 69th Street, one of his girls, Cece, woke up rubbing her eyes. "We home, Daddy?" she mumbled. "Yeah," CP said, lighting a blunt. But something felt different. He wasn't wrong. As soon as they hit Long Beach Boulevard, he started catching whispers. His girls had been approached while he was gone. Some dudes from Compton slid through trying to knock them, saying CP wasn't around, saying the blade was open. Even worse, one of the OGs at the hot dog stand on Artesia pulled him aside. "Lil CP," the old man said. "Your uncle been moving around again? Heard Big CP trying to touch the same corner you running?" CP just froze for a second, staring at the steam coming off the grill. The smell of hot chili mixed with that sour pit in his stomach. "My uncle?" he said. "Nah, he ain't built for this no more." The old man shook his head. "Maybe not, but he got something to prove. He talking like you forgot who taught you how to hustle." CP didn't even respond. He just walked back toward the Lincoln where Lundy was leaning, eyes low. "What'd he say?" Lundy asked. Same old street talk," CP said, trying to shrug it off. But Lundy could tell it was more than that. That night, CP hit the bully solo, cruising slow, music low, eyes scanning the sidewalks. He saw new faces standing on his corners, girls he didn't recognize, cars he'd never seen before. Long Beach Boulevard was cold that night. The streetlights buzzed. The air felt heavy. CP pulled over by the old house on Ellis his mom and dad used to live in, just sat in silence. He thought about his little brother, probably doing homework right now, probably dreaming about being like his big bro without knowing what that really meant. He hit his blunt again and looked up at the night sky. "Damn," he muttered. "Gone for one weekend in the whole city, forget who run this shit." When he pulled back onto the bully, he wasn't smiling anymore. That Vegas glow was gone. He rolled down his window, let the cold air hit his face, and whispered to himself, "All right, back to pimpin'." Because out here, respect didn't last long. You had to earn it again every night. Chapter 13. The Bully Don't Sleep. By the next evening, Lil CP was up early, pacing the living room of his mom's. The blinds half open, sunlight cutting through smoke trails. He hadn't really slept, too many thoughts running laps in his head. The blade felt like it was slipping through his fingers, and he couldn't let that happen. He threw on a white tee, the one with LB stitched on the chest, gold chain resting heavy. When he stepped outside, the cream Cadillac was already waiting, shining like it knew something was about to happen. Lundy Mack was leaning on the hood, sipping from a brown paper bag. "You really gonna handle this today?" he asked. CP nodded. "Ain't no more waiting. They touched the wrong blade." They rolled down Atlantic first, picking up one of CP's girls who'd been laying low since Vegas. She told him everything. 2 Compton cats trying to press up on her, asking her, "Who's your folks?" One even mentioned Big CP's name, saying he was setting up a new parking lot pimpin' spot on the south end of the blade. Lil CP gritted his teeth. "He know better," he said under his breath. By the time they turned onto Long Beach Boulevard, it was dusk. Streetlights flickered, cars crawled slow, and the usual Friday night hum was alive again. Except this time, CP wasn't cruising. He was hunting. He spotted one of the Compton dudes near the liquor store, tall with a Raiders jacket and too much confidence. CP parked halfway up the block and walked over like he owned the ground. "Yo, you the one been talking while I was gone?" CP asked, voice calm but sharp. The dude smirked. "Who's asking?" "Lil CP," he said, stepping closer. "This my pavement." The air went quiet. Even the cars passing by seemed to fade. The dude's smile dropped when he realized who he was talking to. Lundy was in the background, arms crossed, watching but ready. The man backed off, mumbling something about not knowing. CP didn't need to swing. Respect was back in his voice now, and everybody around felt it. But just as he turned to leave, a deep rumble pulled up behind him. An orange Lincoln, headlights low. Big CP stepped out, clean suit, slick grin. "Lil man," he said, "you out here flexing like the king of the bully." Lil CP stared at him. "Ain't flexing, I'm working." Big CP laughed. "Working? You forget who showed you how to make a dollar talk?" CP didn't flinch. "You the one taught me, yeah, but I built mine with my own hands." For a moment, The two just looked at each other. Same blood, same hustle, different worlds. The tension was thick, but neither one wanted it to go all the way there. Finally, Big CP nodded. All right, nephew. Keep your little corners and keep that same energy. Just remember, every king got to answer to somebody. He got back in his Lincoln and drove off, orange paint gleaming in the night. Lundy stepped beside CP. He ain't done, he said quietly. CP nodded, eyes still locked down the blowed. Neither am I. The night wind picked up, carrying the sounds of tires, girls laughing, and a siren way off in the distance. The blade was alive again, but it wasn't at peace. Lil CP leaned on his Cadillac, lit a blunt, and looked up. Long Beach, he whispered. We ain't done yet. Chapter 15, Pressure Points. The following week hit different. The Boulevard looked the same. Girls posted up, cars creeping slow, smoke rising under the streetlights, but the energy was off. Lil CP could feel it. Whispers carried faster, eyes lingered longer, and it seemed like every corner had somebody watching who didn't belong there. He started posting up at the hot dog stand on Artesia again, like old times. That was his thinking spot. He'd sit on the hood of the cream Cadillac, gold grill flashing when he talked, and Lundy would be right there beside him with a strawberry soda, cracking jokes to cut the tension. Man, I'm telling you, Lundy said, shaking his head. Big CP got something brewing. I seen one of his boys talking to that new chick you just brought in from Vegas. Lil CP stayed quiet for a second, biting his lip. He tested me, trying to see if I'll fold or swing first. He took a slow drag from his blunt, watching the smoke drift into the night air. He thought about his mom, how proud she looked when he'd drop a roll of bills on the counter, how his little brother always ran up smiling, wearing his old hats. They didn't know the kind of pressure that came with the crown he was wearing. Later that night, he slid through the projects off Atlantic. His mom's lights were still on. He went in, kissed her forehead, and helped her with the dishes before going to check on his little brother, who was passed out on the couch watching Martin. Lil CP smiled, tucked a 50 in the kid's pocket, and whispered, Don't ever do what I do, Lil man. Just make it out this place. When he left, his phone buzzed. One of his girls panicking. CP, some dudes rolling down the blade, talking about they running things now. Said Big CP's name. Lil CP froze for a second, then exhaled through his nose, calm but cold. Tell him I'm on my way. By the time he hit Long Beach Boulevard, his blood was already hot. The Cadillac's engine hummed low as he pulled up. Sure enough, a different car sat where his girls should have been. Tinted windows, bass thumping, some outsiders trying to stake ground. Lundy rolled with him this time, no questions asked. You sure you want to do this, CP? Yeah, Lil CP said, grabbing his jacket. Ain't nobody running nothing on this blood but me. He stepped out slow, eyes locked, gold teeth glinting in the streetlight. He didn't pull a gun, didn't raise his voice, he just stared. That calm kind of anger that made people back up before he even said a word. This my block, he said simply. You say another name out here again, you gonna disappear like you never existed. Nobody moved. The message landed. They peeled off, engine roaring down the street. Lundy shook his head. Bro, you got enemies stacking up like overdue bills. Lil CP smirked. Good. That means I'm doing something right. But later that night, when he was back in the car alone, the smirk faded. The city felt like it was tightening its grip. Between Big CP's jealousy, the police watching the blade, and the streets always whispering his name, Lil CP knew he was standing in the middle of a storm. Still, he looked in the rearview mirror, gold grill, catching the glow from the streetlight, and whispered to himself, The blade raised me. I ain't scared of where I came from. Chapter 16. Whispers in the Game. By the time summer hit, the air in Long Beach felt different. Not the ocean breeze, that stayed the same, but the energy. The streets were whispering again. Big CP was moving quiet. The kind of quiet that made noise in all the wrong corners. He wasn't flashing his diamonds as much, wasn't posted up on Orange Ave like before, but people were still talking. Girls saying he'd been spotted at precinct parking lots late at night. Rival pimps saying cops were calling him by his first name. Nobody ever caught him dirty, but somehow everyone else was getting jammed up. And Lil CP felt it. Every night standing on the blade under the flickering streetlight outside the liquor store, he'd sense eyes on him. Not cops, not rivals, just eyes, watching, studying. His girls were starting to mention new faces pulling up in rentals, asking too many questions. It wasn't normal business talk, it was setup talk. But Lil CP stayed composed. He still hit his mom's spot off Atlantic every few days, dropping off cash, cleaning up her kitchen while his little brother followed him around like a shadow. He didn't let her see the stress, didn't tell her that the game was changing. He'd just smile, say he was fine, and head back to the street before the sun dipped. That night, when he rolled his cream and gold 79 Cadillac Coupe de Ville down Long Beach Boulevard, the usual rhythm wasn't there. No laughter, no loud music, just quiet. Even the hot dog stand on Artesia looked empty, steam rising, but nobody talking. He called Lundy. "Something don't feel right," he said, eyes scanning his rear view. Lundy told him to fall back for a few days, chill out, maybe leave town again, just until things cooled off. But Lil CP wasn't built like that. He'd built too much to just disappear. He leaned back in his seat, gold grill flashing in the rearview light, and muttered to himself, "Big CP must think I'm a hoe." What he didn't know, what nobody told him, was that Big CP wasn't thinking he was a hoe. He was planning like Lil CP was a threat. And in the game they lived in, a threat didn't get warned, got erased. Chapter 17, Pressure Points. Long Beach nights had a rhythm, but lately the beat was off. Patrol cars rolled slower down Long Beach Boulevard, and the girls started asking nervous questions about new rules. The word was that the feds had a list. Names, car plates, hangout spots, and somehow Lil CP's crew was always the first to get hit. He didn't panic, he just laughed it off. "Feds been hatin'," he told Lundy one night at the hot dog stand on Artesia. "Ain't nothing new." But Lundy could see the twitch in his eye, the restless tapping of gold-capped teeth on a paper cup. Big CP was nowhere to be found in daylight. When people saw him, it was after midnight, sliding through the alleys behind the liquor store, talking low to cats who never smiled. Rumors said he was paying informants, cutting deals to keep his name clean while letting the younger pimps catch the smoke. Then came the first hit. 2 of Lil CP's girls got scooped on a random sweep. One came back the next day acting strange. Jumpy, overly sweet, eyes wet like she'd seen a ghost. She kept saying the same thing. "They asked about you. They know your moves." Lundy wanted to pull him out. "Bro, that's a setup," he said, voice tight. "Lay low for a week. Come crash at my crib." Lil CP just shook his head. "You know me? I don't run from whispers. I run the blade." That night he drove his cream and gold Cadillac slower than usual, watching reflections in store windows, the orange glow bouncing off the chrome. The city felt like it was breathing down his neck. Back on Orange Avenue, Big CP watched from the corner, silent behind the wheel of his orange Lincoln. He didn't smile this time. He just nodded once, like the first domino had finally tipped. Chapter 18. Eyes everywhere. By late summer, Lil CP couldn't move without feeling watched. Every corner had a shadow. Every rearview mirror showed a face that didn't belong. Long Beach Boulevard still buzzed like always. But the blade didn't feel like his anymore. It felt borrowed. The hose was acting different. One wouldn't answer her pager. Another stopped smiling altogether. When he asked where they'd been, they'd mumble something about being harassed by police or just needing a break. Nobody ever needed a break on the blade, not unless someone told them to. He tried to ignore it. Pulled up to his mama's place off Atlantic with groceries and a thick envelope for bills. His little brother ran out barefoot, grinning, holding a basketball almost too big for him. For a moment, the world slowed down. Lil CP helped clean the kitchen, fix the leaky faucet like always, and slipped 2 20s in his mom's purse before she could protest. When he hugged her, She whispered, "You look tired, baby." He smiled. "I'm just working hard, Ma." But when he left, the calm didn't last. He caught a black Crown Vic creeping down the block behind him. When he turned left, it turned left. When he stopped at the light, it stopped too. He rolled down his window, stared in the mirror, and all he saw was tinted glass staring back. Back on Artesia, Lundy met him at the hot dog stand. Steam rose between them, the smell of grilled onions cutting through the night. "You need to step back, nigga," Lundy said quietly. "You already proved your point. Get off this street for a while." Lil CP smirked, eyes still scanning the passing headlights. "If I leave, they win. You know I can't let that happen." A silence hung between them, one only broken by the hum of passing cars and the faint siren somewhere down Orange Ave. What neither of them noticed was the orange Lincoln parked 2 blocks down, lights off, engine humming low. Big CP was inside, hand resting on the steering wheel, eyes fixed on Lil CP's Cadillac. The game was no longer about money. It was about control. And Lil CP was already playing from behind. Chapter 19, Tightening the Noose. Lil CP wasn't sleeping much anymore. Every sound outside made him flinch. The phone would ring twice, then go silent. His pager would buzz with numbers he didn't recognize, area codes from cities he'd never been to. The game felt haunted. He started pulling his girls one-on-one, no more group talks, no more rides in the Cadillac, just quiet meetings in parking lots or behind the liquor store where the neon buzzed like a warning. He'd look them dead in the eye, gold grill glinting under the light. "Anybody asking about me? Anybody saying my name?" Most said no. One cried before she answered, and that told him everything he needed to know. Lil CP didn't yell. He just stepped back, breathing slow, the night wind rattling the bags on the chain-link fence. He knew she was scared, but fear meant somebody had got to her, somebody close. That same night, he rolled up on Lundy Mack's block. The big man came out in sweats and a hoodie, concern already written on his face. "Bro, you look like you ain't slept in days," Lundy said. "I ain't," Lil CP replied. "Somebody's feeding the cops. Might even be Big CP." Lundy's eyes narrowed. "That man's family." Lil CP laughed once, low and bitter. "Family don't move like this." He leaned against his Cadillac, cream paint glinting under the streetlight. "If he's playing me, I'm gonna find out." Lundy wanted to stop him, wanted to tell him to chill, but he knew better. Lil CP was locked in now, pride mixed with paranoia, a dangerous blend that no friend could talk him out of. Later that night, Lil CP rode down Long Beach Boulevard slower than ever. The Blade looked peaceful, almost calm, too calm. His gold teeth flashed in the mirror as he whispered, "Somebody think they can outplay me in my own city?" Up the block, parked deep in the shadows, Big CP's orange Lincoln idled again. Phone in one hand, cigarette in the other. He wasn't smiling anymore, just watching the kid he helped raise finally walk into the trap. Chapter 20. The meeting. The alley behind the old appliance shop smelled like oil and old rain. Puddles held the neon from the Blade like small cities of light. It was one of those stretches of Long Beach that remembered everything. Every whisper, every step, every promise broken on the pavement. Lil CP pulled up slow in the cream Cadillac, gold trim catching the gutter light. He parked where he could see the mouth of the alley in every approach. The motor idled soft, a lullaby for men who had learned to sleep with one eye open. He waited like a man who had rehearsed patience. He checked his grill in the vanity of a cracked mirror propped against a trash heap, then clipped it closed with the small pride that keepers of image hold dear. He wasn't alone in this life, but he was alone in the decisions that came with it. That's how the Blade taught you. Company didn't make you safer. It only made the fall louder. When the orange Lincoln slid up and cut its light, the night seemed to fold. Big CP stepped out slow, his jacket creaking like a warning. Diamonds at his throat glinted like stars in a city that had stopped believing in them. He moved with the effortless confidence of a man who'd once built the table everyone now sat at, and who still believed he had the right to clear the plates. "You picked the meeting spot," Big CP said, voice calm. "Poetry." Lil CP didn't smile. He had no appetite for poetry. He'd rehearsed his questions all week. Who was feeding the cops? What hand had pushed the kids onto the corner behind his back? Why things had turned so cold? But the first thing out of his mouth was the simplest. Why now? Big CP leaned on the hood of his Lincoln, looking like he was only half there. The streetlight caught the edge of his cheekbone. "You ever think the game owes you anything?" he asked. "You ever think it owes you respect because you showed up?" Lil CP kept his face steady. "Ain't about owing me. It's about what you do when folks start getting burned." "That's a heavy word for a young man who just learned how to count bills," Big CP said. He didn't look angry. He just looked tired. The exhaustion of a man who'd worn a crown too long and found the gold heavier than he expected. Lil CP stepped out from the car and folded his arms. "You been moving like you got a say in who lives and who don't," he said. "If you got a problem with how I run things, say it straight. Don't do it with cops and whispers." Big CP's laugh was the size of a wince. "You think I set the law on you? I set things so the house stays standing. Sometimes that means tough calls." He took a breath, the kind a man takes before he explains what he thinks is necessary. "You got ambition, nephew. Dangerous thing. Might make you forget the price." Lil CP heard the warning for what it was. A line drawn in a language that had always been their family's way. It was a cut that came dressed as advice. "You make them calls and I'll answer for it," Lil CP said. His voice stayed low. "I built this. Don't get cute with it." Big CP's expression closed then. Not a shift in anger, but a careful folding of thought like a ledger being shut. "You got gumption," he said. "That's a gift. Don't let it get you dead." There was a long silence. The kind that could have been ending, or could have been only a pause between the opening chords of something worse. Big CP stepped closer. Not hostile, not conciliatory, simply closer. "You brought heat last time," he said, almost conversational. "You carry iron. You think that matters here?" Lil CP felt the old muscle memory tighten near his ribs, the readiness he'd learned in nights that had no dawn. He thought of his mama sleeping on Atlantic, of Malik's laugh on the couch, of Lundy's steady face when he asked what he should do. He thought about the Cadillac and the sound of its engine purr like a promise. He reached for the jacket at his side, half to check his pistol, half because his hands had to move, and the gesture hung between them, like the lit match before a fire. Big CP's eyes tracked that motion and, without any flair, moved his own hand toward his hip. "I didn't come here to talk all night," Big CP said. "I came so you understand one thing. Once you make your bed on those streets, other folks own the sheets. Don't be surprised when they pull the blanket." There was no answer left, but the cold conversation of men and bullets in Chapter 21, the alley came back. The Coupe de Ville was parked crooked outside the same liquor stores last night. CP leaned against the hood, laughing into his phone, gold flashing when he talked. But up close, his eyes were tired, focused on something deeper than his jokes. "We just hitting a quick run," he said when Lundy Mack climbed in. "What kind of run? Don't trip, just need backup. You got that quiet energy I like." The way CP said it, you'd think it was nothing more than a gas stop. They drove through back streets where the pavement cracked like old scars. The city rolled by. Swap meets, murals, corner boys selling CDs. The closer they got to the Blade, the louder it got. Horns, laughter, arguments, music, all mixing with the low hum of streetlights that never slept. Lundy watched as Lil CP slowed near a side alley. 2 cars were already parked there, engines idling. Something about the silence around them didn't sit right. "Yo, CP, this the spot?" Quick talk, bro. Wait right here. CP stepped out, shoulders squared, voice calm as he approached the first car. From the driver's seat, a man leaned forward, speaking low. Hands moved, eyes darted. Then it happened. Too fast to see clearly. A door flew open. A shout, tires screeching. Lundy ducked instinctively. When he looked up, the second car was gone, and Lil CP was on the ground beside the Cadillac still. The night fell silent. The blade itself seemed to hold its breath. Lundy stumbled out, calling CP's name, his voice shaking. The air smelled like metal and exhaust. CP's gold grill caught the streetlight, flashing weakly as if trying to smile one last time. His hand was still clutching his phone. The call ended, but the screen cracked from the fall. The Cadillac's motor hummed like it didn't understand what had just happened. For a second, the whole world froze. The liquor store light flickering, the faraway echo of a siren starting to climb toward them. Lundy pressed down, yelling for someone to help, but the blood kept coming slow and stubborn, like it didn't want to leave him. He could feel it. That moment when warmth turns to chill, when life starts letting go. Big CP's orange Lincoln appeared at the far end of the block, rolling slow, headlights low. He didn't get out. He just watched, eyes hidden, unreadable, and then drove off into the dark, taillights disappearing behind the liquor store. Lundy stayed there, hands shaking, knees wet, whispering the only thing he could. Stay with me, bro. Stay with me. But Lil CP's eyes were already fading, lost somewhere between the noise and the silence. He blinked once, twice, as if trying to see through the neon haze. The last thing he caught was the gold reflection of his Coupe de Ville, still idling, still shining like it refused to believe its driver was gone. When the sirens finally arrived, the blade looked unchanged. Cars still rolling, laughter still echoing, hustlers still shouting into the night. But for Lundy Mack, nothing would ever sound the same again. He sat on the curb, shirt streaked red, staring at the Cadillac. The same car that had once carried them through dreams now sat crooked, silent and grieving. Someone whispered that Big CP was seen leaving the block early, but no one said it out loud. On the blade, truth traveled slower than pain. Later that night, as the tow truck pulled the Cadillac away, the puddles caught its reflection one last time, gold and cream folding into the darkness. The air still smelled like smoke and hot metal. Lundy lit a black and mild he didn't even want. He looked down the boulevard, neon buzzing overhead, and whispered into the wind, "I'll remember." The blade didn't answer. It never does. It just kept humming, alive, merciless, and hungry for the next story. Chapter 22. The city stopped for him. This call came just after sunrise, the kind of hour when the city's quiet enough for bad news to sound louder. Malik was in the living room, cartoons flickering on the TV, when his mama's phone started ringing. He didn't think much of it until he heard the sound she made, something between a gasp and a scream. Then came the silence, that heavy, thick kind of silence that no house should ever feel. She dropped the phone. Her hands covered her mouth. The TV went on playing like nothing happened, colors flashing, characters laughing, while her world broke apart in front of her son. Malik stood frozen, too young to understand, but old enough to know. "Mom," he whispered. She didn't answer, just fell to her knees, whispering, my baby boy," over and over, rocking back and forth on the same floor Lil CP used to mop before heading out to the blade. The news spread fast, faster than anything ever had on Atlantic Avenue. Before noon, word had reached every corner store, car wash, and liquor run. By sundown, the whole city knew. Lil CP was gone. The funeral was the biggest Long Beach had seen in years. They held it at a church off Orange Avenue, but the line stretched around the block. Hustlers, girls from the blade, gangsters in suits. Even the mayor who had once promised to clean up the boulevard. Outside, the streets were lined with Cadillacs, Lincolns, and lowriders. Gold, orange, cream, all polished like trophies under the sun. Some of his friends wore custom Dickie outfits in tribute. Others held candles. When the doors opened, it was quiet. Too quiet for a man who had lived so loud. Lundy Mack sat in the front row, shoulders stiff, jaw tight. He hadn't slept since that night. The shotgun stayed locked in his trunk, but the memory stayed in his chest, heavy and burning. The preacher talked about a soul too bright for this world, but everyone in that church knew better. Lil CP didn't belong to heaven or hell. He belonged to the blade, to the pavement that raised him and the game that took him. When the casket rolled out, painted cream with gold trim to match his coupe de ville, even the hardest men in the room lowered their heads. Someone said they'd never seen so many people cry for one man. Someone else said they'd never seen so many enemies standing side by side. Outside, the air smelled like incense and gasoline. Balloons floated up, catching the light. A girl kissed her fingers and pressed them to the hood of the hearse. "Rest easy, baby," she said. "The blade don't feel the same without you." Lundy stayed until everyone left. He walked up to the grave, knelt down, and whispered, "You was right, bro. The game don't love nobody, but I'll keep your name alive." Behind him, Malik stood next to his mama, holding her hand. He didn't cry, not yet. He just stared at the name etched into the stone, Desmon Lil CP Price, and thought about how much he looked like the picture on the program. The sun hit the headstone, gold letters shining one last time. The city buzzed in the distance. Cars, music, voices, life moving on like it always did. But for that one afternoon, Long Beach stopped. Stopped for a kid from the projects who rose up, made his name, and paid the price for loving the streets too much. As the wind picked up, a piece of the funeral program drifted down the block, flipping through the air until it landed face up in a puddle near the curb, right where the blade don't sleep.